When I was in my late 30s, I had an emotional meltdown, mid to late 30s, from the overwhelm of what I later learned were my thoughts perseverating. And through work and therapy and commitment and a deep desire to transform myself to what I call just feel better, I started listening to other people in self-help and so on, and I learned that thoughts were things. This worked especially well for me because I may or may not have been controlling. I may or may not have been a really, really good type A. And so when I learned that thoughts were things, and I surely knew I could control things, then I put one and two together and I said, well, if I can control things, I can control my thoughts. And controlling our thoughts is mindset transformation. And it took me years, Anne, of working towards this, failing backward, failing forward. And it's the reason I was ready when you said, what is one piece of wisdom that has transformed your life? And over a journey of almost 30 years now, I have been working in the area of mindset transformation, which I teach as never done, but rather, like all good modalities, a practice. And that's what I wrote about in my chapter.
So, I did a little exploration when you showed up on my radar. I'm like, who's this Susan Axelrod? And I saw that you've got a number of anthologies that you've produced yourself. So when I put the call out, hey, if you've got a piece of wisdom that you'd find that you'd really like to give people right now, what about that opportunity made you want to seize it? Because I think you came in at the last minute, like, I don't know, like I think I want to do this, but what put you over the edge of wanting to do this?
One thing, Anne, made me go all in. And that was my own experience listening to other people. In those days, they were called audio cassette tapes, later CDs, and now streaming. Listening to other people, learning from them, in fact, from books that had been written decades, even maybe a century prior, and realizing that I was a person now listening, learning, growing, and even being transformed by something someone else had written or spoken about. And I have my own transformation tip. It may have all been said before, but it hasn't all been heard. And this transformation tip that I created, I don't know how many years ago, guided me to say, I want to say this. And for those who are intended to hear it, I'm all in.
Yeah. So I get that. Um, just kind of off the cuff, do you have plans on running with this message? Like you've got this in this book, you've got this platform for it. You've made some a really beautiful offer in your chapter for people who want to learn more about this and explore this a bit more. How do you use this wisdom in what you're currently doing as a business owner, and what do you want to do with this message now that you've got it out there and it's positioned you just so?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I want to enlighten more people about what mindset is, how the thoughts perseverate, and where what we call negative thoughts, negative limiting beliefs come from. And so I created a quiz called Is Your Mindset Holding You Back? And as I've been doing my work, people may or may not know all the work it takes to do an endeavor like this. As I've been doing my work to get this mindset quiz together, I've spent countless hours now wondering and imagining what would work for someone to take a quiz and see themselves and maybe change. And at this stage of my life, I'm not looking to create big groups or memberships or things like that. My intuitive space is when I get to work personally with clients, and that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of old, Anne, to tell you the truth, and I'm very deep into knowing dearly how it feels to have your mindset changed, to have an open, optimistic view going forward. And so I hope and expect that there will be some people who want to work with me as a confidence coach. But no matter what, if they take my mindset quiz, they're going to learn something about themselves.
I've heard some of the authors chit-chatting in the sidelines, and some of them are saying, I'd love to do a library talk now that I have a book and I can present in front of groups. I'm thinking I want to go do that and talk about their chapter and talk about the book in general. Is is that something that you have any interest in doing? Like how do you envision using your chapter in this book to spread the word?
Many years ago, I decided that I wanted to be able to do my work wherever I was so I could visit my daughter who was far away. I ended up living near that daughter. Now I'm far from my other daughters. So I started the online business model for my business, gosh, 15 years ago now. And so I envision using my chapter in my personal coaching, but also for me, it's more like online groups, Zoom groups. I've had groups for 5 years now. I've already started talking to some people about their own book groups. And so I do some local work, but mostly my audience is national and even some international. So I envision using my chapter to spark conversation about this exactly now to help people realize they can take charge of their own minds to feel better. So I'm more inclined towards an online model as I have developed for many years.
I love that. Like, I think one of the things that I've sat back and looked at is the relationships that have been forming between some of the authors. Like you mentioned, you've gotten to know some of the authors, you've got to interview them. And when you hear what their chapters are about, are you not seeing how the pieces all fit together? How this is such a fabulous collection? Like, what have you picked up on, or what have you learned, or
Oh my gosh, I can't even honestly. And first of all, your posts have been so helpful to me. Some of these bits of wisdom. Honestly, the reason I join a collective is really just for that. I'm much more interested in these other authors and exactly what they're talking about. My gosh, somebody wrote about the ability to argue and open your hands. I mean, I can't remember who that was right now. I spoke to one author who wrote about intellectual property. What is that? Well, it's a bigger conversation about AI today. You know, I spoke with somebody about leadership, and he's a man who happens to have high emotional intelligence and what we call feminine energy, which is exactly what's needed now. This collective of authors, I honestly cannot wait to read this book, and I will be buying it for the people close to me to share this wisdom that now, because I've been in this collective, I realize, what's in the book, and I haven't even read it myself yet. So I'm really excited to be a part of this collective of authors who were ready in a timely and relevant way to share the wisdom they've gleaned and gained over life and in business.